All right, so I waited enough time, 20 minutes almost, right? So we're going to continue with today's classes. I don't know how are we going to, I'm sorry. I don't know how we're going to do because you couldn't join to the platform. So I'm a little bit worried about that. So okay, the last lesson we've seen yesterday was about reflexive pronouns. And give me a second, please. Right, so we're going to see this new lesson about models of possibility and probability. So I will share my screen with you. Once you can see it. Okay, yes, I imagine you can see it. So let's start with this lesson.
Hello. Today we're going to talk about modals of possibility and probability. I'm sure that you must use some of these already, but you might not know everything about them. Let's take a look at them. We use modals of possibility and probability to talk about things that we think are possibly or probably true.
I might be a little late. If I am, please start without me.
Valentino's must be a popular restaurant. It's sometimes hard to get a reservation.
Okay, so we're going to talk about models of possibility and probability to talk about things that we think are possible or probably true. That's the name of that's the reason of the name, right? That's the name's reason. So we can find a possibility or probability in those cases, right? So I don't have any that it's any certain thing, you know. So yes, that will be okay. Then we're going to, as you can see, we have might and must. So we're going to start with must in affirmative sentence that is the strongest.
Must expresses a probability. We use must when we're almost 100% sure that something is true.
I've got to go. It must be time for my class.
In the example, Jackie is almost sure that her class is ready to begin.
Okay, so we're going to see that we have the usage of must. Must is the strongest. Okay, when we're almost 100% sure that something is true, we're going to use must, even though we can use must for obligations, for things that are things you have to do, right? So yes, it's like for example, you must wear this kind of shoes, for example. Okay, so yes, as you can see, we're going to use must in this way, right? Let's continue with may, might, and could. The three of these models are the same. Let's listen.
May, might, and could express a possibility. We use may, might, and could when we're less sure that something is true. I don't think Professor Roberts is from the United States. I think he said he came here when he was a teenager.
He may be Canadian.
He might come from Australia.
He could be British.
Okay, so as you can see, we have these three examples, and these three examples are the same, right? So as you can see, the meaning of these three models are the same, okay? We have the usage of may, might, and could. They express a possibility, okay? We use may, might, and could when we're less sure that something is true. I mean, I don't have that possibility as we have with must, right? So yes, we have to consider that, right? And we're going to continue with the negative. Okay?
We use can't or couldn't when we're almost 100% sure that something is impossible.
I'm sorry, but you can't be serious. I'm sure you're mistaken.
Okay, so we're going to see that we have the negative cannot or couldn't. Okay, when we're almost 100% of something was, oh sorry, something is impossible, we're going to use the negative cannot or couldn't. You can use a contraction, there is no problem. And yes, remember that the context of this is in the present. Okay, present or future, but not in the past, because we have another lesson that expresses the same, but in the past. Okay, so yes, when we think that something is impossible, okay, it cannot be true, for example. Okay, I think that it's almost impossible, okay, but I don't know because that's an impossibility or improbability. We're going to continue with the usage of must not. This has another type of context, okay. What do I mean with this? For example, if you're going to check, okay, you're going to see some advertisements in some restaurants where it says, you must not smoke here, for example. Okay, so it is like an obligation, things you are not allowed to do. So let's listen to the 5th point.
We use must not when we're a little less sure that something is impossible. We don't usually use a contraction with must not.
I heard that Nick Crawford is still trying to prove his innocence.
He must not have any proof yet.
Okay, so as you can see, we have like, when we are a little less sure that something is impossible, okay, we're going to use must not. It has another, it is used for another types of context, as I said before. So notice that he must not have any previous. So I have an impossibility, okay, a thing that I think it's impossible, almost impossible, right? I'm a little less sure that something is impossible. Okay, notice that all of these modals, they use the same structure. That is the subject, the modal, and the verb in it based from. In this case, we're going to place the negative between the auxiliary and the verb.
We use may not or might not when we think something is impossible, but we aren't very sure. We don't usually use a contraction with may not or might not.
Crawford may not be innocent.
Then again, he might not be guilty. We just don't know.
Okay. Again, we have the negative, may not, might not. Notice that this structure is the same, okay? When we think something is impossible, but we aren't very sure, okay? We don't usually use contractions of may not or might not. Okay, so yes. We can say that may, it's a little more stronger than might, okay? So yes, might is like this little model, but may it's not it is formal, right? That's something that we have to know, it is formal. So let's see the structure.
Remember, after a modal, you can only use the base form of the verb.
Talia must be exhausted. She's working so hard.
Okay, so we're going to use the subject. If it's third person plural singular, there's no problem. We're going to continue with this important structure. What is the modal? Must, may, might, and then can't, will, couldn't, could. We're going to continue with it based from of the verb.
In questions, we usually use could. We don't usually use might, may, or must.
What do you think? Could Crawford be guilty?
Okay, if we're going to use could for questions, you can use may for permission. May I go to the bathroom, for example? Okay, but notice that we have the usage of could, we have the subject, and we have the verb in this case plus the question mark. Okay, and we can also see the short answers. Let's see.
Notice that in short answers, we usually use be if the question has a form of be.
What do you think? Could Crawford be guilty?
Who knows? He might be.
When a question has a verb other than be, we just use the modal in the short answer.
Could Jackie really have an agent?
She could. Anything's possible.
Okay, you have different ways, right, to answer. For example, what do you think could Crawford be guilty? If we're going to have any form of the verb be, we're going to reply in the answer. He might be, he could be, he could, he may be, or something like that. But if you have another verb that is not part of the verb be, we're going to answer only with the subject and the auxiliary. Okay, sorry, the auxiliary, the modal verb. Okay, and let's finish with the last point.
We can also use a verb like think to ask about possibility or probability. Notice that the reply still uses a modal.
Do you think Crawford is guilty?
He might be.
Okay, so another way, right, to ask is using think, because think, when we say I think, I believe, it expresses this word think expresses a possibility or probability, right? So as it is in simple present, we have to use auxiliary, right? So for that reason, we can use do you think instead of does she think, or something like that. And we can answer with whatever model you consider. There is no problem, okay? So yes, that would be everything for today. Okay, that's all for the lesson. Please don't forget to join to the platform, because I cannot assign you the homework, right? So okay. Thank you for your attention, and see you then. Bye bye.